Welcome back you guys, I'm NiniFC, this is Blue Lions TV, and welcome to another 4 talking points video after that big win against Ajax last night. Now for the 4 main talking points, I'm going to be focusing on the super Frank Lampard effect. I'll be talking about whether Christian Pulisic deserves to start versus Burnley. I'll be talking about why we need to have perspective as Chelsea fans in regards to Hudson-Odoi, and of course to end things, I'll be talking about TOMORI and ZOUMA and whether we're seeing our first choice centre backs throughout the entire campaign this season. Now before I continue on, do not forget to smash that like button. Help me get over 1,500 likes for today's video. Now, to start with things, I'm going to talk about Frank Lampard and the super effect he's having with the team right now. Now, I'm going to tell you guys, I really wanted Lampard to be our new manager. And what really cemented for me why Lampard would be the correct appointment for us was our game versus Derby. Now, of course, we had the superior players compared to Derby, but Derby came with a game plan and it worked amazingly well. It worked so well, in fact, that once that Derby game was over, other teams in the Premier League started to copy the same tactics of man-marking Jorginho and pressing him. Now in that game, Lampard had Mason Mount doing a job on Jorginho, and of course Mason Mount did it fantastically well. The Derby players looked so confident because they knew that Lampard prepared them very well. And honestly, in that game versus Derby, we didn't deserve to win that game. I thought that Derby were the better team. They made the better opportunities, and when I saw what Lampard was doing with a championship team, it made me think, what could Lampard do if he became our new manager? And since then, you guys, I have not been disappointed at all. Now, since Lampard has arrived, things have been running really smooth, and that's testament to Lampard's man management abilities. And I think that's one area that separates great top managers from very good ones. And that's how you get the players to play for you. That's how you tap into their psychology. That's how you get the best out of them. That's how you make them feel confident. And Lampard has all those traits that you'd want. Now, as fans, we remember the seasons under Conte and Sarri, and most times these managers made substitutions. What did they ever really do? They never really changed the complexion of the game. The players that came on didn't really play with too much fire, and really, is that a surprise? I don't think so. Under Conte and Sarri, these were 2 managers that really believe in sticking with their first team. And of course, if you're a player that isn't part of the first team, you're going to feel inferior. And if you feel inferior, you're going to feel less confident. Is it any surprise that the lack of man management from Conte and Sarri at times led to some downfalls within the players and the manager? I don't think so. With Lampard though, I feel the advantage he had is that he was a player. So he understands what it feels like, you know. Now of course I know Conte was a player as well, but 2 different times. Lampard's young, Lampard's modern, and Lampard does not dismiss the human element in the game. If you really think about things, you can see the common sense in this approach from Lampard. Now of course, if you're a new manager, if you're signing for us in a season where we have a transfer ban and a lot of players that maybe you don't want to work with, you'll be forced to work with, well, that means that you need to adapt, you need to be patient, and you need to understand that if you want to be successful, you need to rely upon every single player in the squad. And since Lampard has arrived, how many young players have made debuts? How many players, squad players, have got opportunities and minutes in the team as well? And when you compare this stage of the season compared to previous seasons under Sarri, Conte, etc, well, these managers barely rotated or relied on the squad as much. Now for this season, Lampard is planting the qualities and the ideals that a top quality squad needs in the modern game. And I like how Lampard is treating this season. You know, he's seeing things as a project. For his first year project, he wants to cultivate that winning mentality within the team, and to do that, Lampard needs to stick to his words. So if he says that if you want to play in the team, you need to train well, that means that Lampard needs to stick to that, and sticking to that, Lampard most definitely has. Honestly, I could really go on and on and on with this point, but I think that maybe to do it full justice, I might do a separate video sometime in the future. To end this first point though, let's not forget, the team that Lampard's working with is not fully in his ideal image, but once next season comes, once we have a window to work in, we'll really see what Lampard's really about. And honestly, you guys, I can't wait. Now, for the second talking point, I want to talk about Christian Pulisic again, and this time, I want to talk about whether Pulisic deserves to start against Burnley this weekend. But before I give you guys my conclusion, I need to walk you through how I've been seeing this whole situation and what my thoughts and opinions are. Now, recently, Pulisic's form has improved, and is that really a surprise? In the past few games, he's played as a number 10, and he's played on the left wing, and when he lost his place in the team, that came from playing down the right hand side. I thought the two notable games in which Pulisic did struggle in were the Grimsby game and that game against Sheffield United. Now, why exactly did Pulisic struggle down that side? Number one, we're not really building our attacks down that side too much. Number two, Azpilicueta doesn't really combine too well with anyone down that right hand side. And number three, if you're playing down that right hand side, the right hand side is used more in a supportive type of role, meaning that the players that play there focus more on their movement in behind. Now, why exactly has Pulisic looked better playing down the left hand side and playing in the middle? Well, that comes down to Pulisic and his game. Pulisic loves to make dribbles and run with the ball. That's the type of player he is. Now, down that right hand side, what options does Pulisic have? All he can hope to do is receive the ball, go down the byline and put a cross in. But that's really limiting the player because Pulisic has a lot more to offer with his dribbles and his movement in behind. I feel like down that right hand side, there's a lot more to your game that Pulisic needs to have. And I think that maybe at the age he's at, that's not the most ideal situation for him. You know, you need to be very selfless. You need to really understand team shape and team movement. You need to put in a real strong defensive shift as well. And on top of that, you will not get support from Azpi down that right hand side. So you can see why any young player is naturally going to struggle. And these have been the main reasons as to why Pulisic struggled in the early part of this season. Now, when Pulisic's playing down the left hand side and in the middle, it means that he's able to utilize his amazing dribbling game. We need to understand and respect Pulisic's instincts as a player, and Pulisic's the type of player that loves to beat his man. That's how he gets his confidence. If there aren't many opportunities for him to run past his man and carry the ball, I feel like he looks a bit unsure of himself, and that's okay. He's only about 20, 21 years old. I think it's natural for a young player to feel like that. Now, the issue we have is, how do you utilize Pulisic? Down the left-hand side, I think it's safe to assume that Hudson-Odoi will play most of the games down there, and in the middle, Mason Mount is always going to play in that position. So, what does this mean for Pulisic? Well, for me, I think the simple solution is to play all three together and just have the wingers interchanging and swapping positions. I mean, when we cast our minds back to the glory days back in the day with Robin and Duff on either wing, these guys were constantly swapping positions and it worked amazingly well in our favour. And I saw small signs of this in the final 30 minutes against Ajax. Pulisic was confident. He was able to beat his man, carry the ball in the middle, utilising and maximising the spaces between the lines we created. And I really feel like we'll see this very soon. I think that Lampard is thinking about something like this. Otherwise, he wouldn't have played them both against Ajax. You know, Ajax was a very promising game, especially in the final 30 to 25 minutes. Pulisic came on, down that left-hand side, you know, cutting through the Ajax defence, really exploiting and really utilising the spaces Ajax gave us amazingly well, linking up with the striker. And by doing that, it meant that Hudson-Odoi could focus more on his movement in behind. And I think with these two players, because they're very young, confidence is the most important thing. And I think the best of both worlds solution is to play both and have them constantly interchanging positions. This way, both players can fully express themselves, both players can fully distribute their creative and attacking responsibilities, and of course on top of that, it's gonna cause a ton of issues for team. I mean, yesterday against Ajax, I could see it. You know, Hudson-Odoi's movement creating even more space for Pulisic to run into. I wanna see that relationship blossom. I want to see these guys play more together. I think it could be quite exciting. And to answer the question I started with, should Pulisic start against Burnley? For me, 100%. I want to see Callum, Mason and Pulisic combining and interlinking all together. But of course it comes down to Frank Lampard. I personally think that Frank might consider starting Pulisic because against Burnley, we know what type of team they're going to be. So the more movement between the lines, the more skill and the more flair we have, the better it's going to give our chances of getting the 3 points against Burnley. But anyway, you guys, in the comment section below, give me your thoughts and opinions. Do you feel that Pulisic should be starting against Burnley? If you think so, state why. And if you think that Pulisic shouldn't start against Burnley just yet, state your reasons why as well. Now, we move on to the third talking point, and that's in regards to TOMORI and ZOUMA and whether we're seeing our first choice centre backs for the entirety of this season. Now, are ZOUMA and TOMORI our best 2 centre backs? Personally, I think that's very hard to say. I've been consistently saying that we have 4 top defenders in Rudiger, Christensen, TOMORI and ZOUMA. All 4 have great athletic capabilities, physical capabilities, great passing technique as well, and good in the air. I feel like it's quite hard to distinguish who's the better defender out of the rest. I think that all 4 are quite similar and even, but I think one thing that's safe to assume is that so far ZOUMA and TOMORI have looked like our most solid centre-back pairing. But why exactly is that? And I think the simple reason for this is because both players have been able to consistently play together. One point I'm always telling you guys is when it comes to defending, I think the relationship and the partnership is greater than the sum of its parts. You could have 2 world-class defenders, but if they don't complement each other's game or work together, it's going to mean absolutely nothing. Now, as pre-season ended, I mentioned that Lampard needs to find a consistent centre-back pairing because, you know, if you're constantly interchanging and swapping centre-backs every single game, it's going to be hard for them to build that relationship and, most importantly, that partnership. This season we've seen ZOUMA and Christensen together, we've seen TOMORI and Christensen together, we've seen Rudiger, Christensen and TOMORI together, and now we're seeing ZOUMA and TOMORI together. We're like literally at the start of our season and already we've seen 4 different centre-back partnerships. So when sloppy individual errors come, is it really a surprise? I don't think so. Anyway, so far this season, ZOUMA and TOMORI have played about 7 games together. That first started as a small cameo in that Super Cup game versus Liverpool. That was the infancy of their partnership, and we've seen how it's really blossomed a lot now after their defensive masterclass against Ajax last night. During this time too, it feels like Lampard has really figured out how to get the best out of his centre-backs. For example, with ZOUMA, ZOUMA plays more of a supportive role where he covers in behind, and with TOMORI on the left hand side, he's the guy that starts the attacks, progresses the ball, leaves his defensive line to move into midfield to build up the play. Now, when you combine all the factors I've spoken about and mentioned, it's no surprise now why we're seeing very consistent defending. It's no surprise now why we're seeing clean sheets in our defense. And I have to say, is it really a surprise that the 2 centre-backs that have played the most together are looking like the most confident ones? I don't think so. Still, as the season does go on, once Chris and Rudiger are fully fit, what's going to happen to our defense? I'm not too sure. And honestly, Lampard is going to have a ridiculous selection headache as this season goes on. And to end things with a final point for today's video, I want to talk about Callum Hudson-Odoi and his performance last night versus Ajax. Now, last night, we never saw Callum at his best, but at the same time, we never saw him at his worst either. Now, for me, I thought it was a fairly standard, average game. Regardless though, we can still focus on some aspects of his play in yesterday's game, and I think the thing that stood out for a lot of us the most was his decision making in the final third and his finishing inside the box. Now, I still stand by what I said, that pitch was absolutely awful. I've played football before. I know the struggles of playing on a difficult pitch because it means that you have to really concentrate on your first touch and how you move the ball. When the field's cleaner and smoother, you don't have to waste your time thinking about stuff like that. And I think that this is one factor which definitely affected Callum's game in yesterday's game. Still though, I'm not going to be too upset by his dribbles not really coming off yesterday because we know that this guy's exceptional. We've seen him play how many games? I think that's circumstantial. But the other aspects of his game that isn't circumstantial so far is his finishing inside the box. And I feel like this is definitely going to be something that fans need to be patient with for the next few seasons. It does take a lot of time and most importantly, a lot of experience in front of goal to confidently start scoring. Remember, just because a player has world-class potential does not mean that they're going to fulfill it in a season. It doesn't work like that, it's never worked like that, and it's never gonna happen. Now the reason why I say this is because last night I saw a lot of reactionary opinions where people were starting to really criticize Callum and his performance, and personally I thought it was way too harsh. I mean, the guy is only 18 years old. It's not as if he's even played a full season in professional football. Under Sarri, he was told to stay out wide. He was never inside the box. So how many opportunities does he really have in front of goal? Not too many. And this is why seeing how Frank is using Callum this season is the most exciting thing, because Callum is now finding himself in very good areas in front of goal. And the reason why I find this exciting is because as Callum keeps playing in this system, as he keeps improving over the seasons, he's going to master this part of his game. And once he does, it's an absolute shutdown. Anyway, you guys, I'm going to bounce. Thank you for watching. I'm No1FC, this is Blue Lions TV. See you guys in a bit.